Are you ready to live your dream? Motivation, inspiration, and passion. That's what it takes to make dreams come true. Welcome to the Nadia Sahara Show. Our guests will share important tips, insights, and knowledge to help you fulfill your dreams of success. Here's your host, actress, author, entrepreneur, Nadia Sahara.
Yay! We are back. It's 2020. All right. Hello, everyone. I have been on vacation all of December, and I have to tell you, I am like, oh no, what do I do? I kind of lost my routine, but here I am. I'm back. So you all know that my show is about dreams, about living your dream, about not giving up on your dream, loving yourself enough to make it come true. We all have dreams. My dream has been, like, I've had a lot of dreams, and I've achieved a lot of them. I'm an entrepreneur, too, and I love business. I'm an author. I'm an actress. I'm even taking voice lessons for the last 10 years. One of these days, I'm going to break out and sing. So here we go. Now I invite guests to my show who will share their secrets and their journey and their challenges, and we learn from everyone. And this is to help you to learn to do what you need to do to make your dream come true. This show is all about motivation, inspiration, and education. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today. She is incredible. She is an author, life coach, a relationship coach, straight from the UK. Gina Gardiner, welcome to the Nadia Sahara Show.
Hello there, and thank you very much for inviting me. Really pleased to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad to have you because my show is perfect because it's about motivation, inspiration, and education. And you do all three. So let's talk about you right now, about your being an author. You've written a book, and it's a #1 bestseller. Tell us about your book, the title, and what exactly it's all about.
I've written actually several books, but the latest one is Thriving, Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways of Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment.
Sounds good. We all need that. Well, good. So now it's on Amazon, I imagine, and a lot of other outlets online and everything. And
yes, it's all the usual places, and there's an audio version as well as a Kindle and a paperback and a hardback. So whatever your fancy is, yes.
Well, good, wonderful. So tell us about your book.
Thriving, Not Surviving has arisen really as it's shown the development over the years of these strategies and principles that I live by and that I've used with many clients. And what I found was it didn't matter where the client came from, whether they were coming to me as a life coach or as a business coach or as a leadership trainer and facilitator, that wherever they started from, there were 5 pathways that we had to cover in some shape or form. And so I decided to write the book, and lots of people said to me, but you ought to just write a book about happiness or about success. But I was very clear that it needed to be holistic, because if you just look at one part of your life and you ignore the rest, then you'd find that it's a bit like being on an uneven wheel, that your focus is on one thing and other things sort of drop off. And so the 5 pathways, the first is about belief. What we believe about ourselves and about the world is actually our reality. It doesn't make it the reality, but it makes it ours. And so starting with self-belief and confidence, really for me, that's the bedrock of everything. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect other people to believe in you? And what we believe about money tends to become our reality. If you believe that money is the root of all evil, or that money is impossible to earn and keep, then that becomes your reality. So beliefs, very, very important. And empowering beliefs. We all carry so many beliefs from our childhood, which may or may not be true. We can really do a review of our beliefs, get rid of the ones that are holding us back, and install new, much more empowering ones. The second pathway is relationships, and every relationship that we have with other people is a reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. So if you don't respect yourself, then it's not surprising if other people don't respect you. If you believe you're of no account, then it's much easier for other people to bully you or abuse you. Whereas if you have a strong sense of self-belief, you wouldn't put up with it. You'd walk away, or you'd tell them no. Mm-hmm. The third pathway is that of success. And in my experience, as many people fear success as fear failure. And our attitude towards success makes a huge difference. Many people don't define what success means for them and why that's important. So it's very difficult then to know whether they've achieved success because they keep moving the goalposts. And then people who fear failure tend not to get started, and people who fear success tend to sabotage when things are going well. And so there's a whole range of principles and strategies that can help us achieve and sustain success. Pathway number 4 is about managing change and transition. And I find it interesting that, change is one of the 3 constants in life, death and taxes and change. We're changing from the moment we're conceived until we die. And yet many people are very fearful of change, and so they resist it. And in doing so, life becomes very difficult. And then the 5th pathway is that of, so what's your purpose? Because you can have all the trappings of success, but if you have no sense of purpose, it's very difficult to live a joyous life that feels fulfilled. And so for me, looking at all of these and looking at ways to achieve them and to achieve them consistently was really important. And it's the bedrock of the personal and spiritual development program that I have, and also it's half of the leadership program, which looks at leading yourself first before looking to lead others.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
On your pathway number 2,
yes,
where you were saying that you lose respect if you don't respect yourself. How can someone else respect you? Is that? Am I in the right one?
Yes, you are.
Okay, and so
I think it was more difficult. Yes, go on.
And how does that work? If let's say someone is narcissistic. Yep. Let's say you have a narcissistic partner. And let's say you do respect yourself. However, he doesn't respect you, or she, and they don't take responsibility for what they've done in the relationship or how they've done it. But you know what they've done. You bring it up, you say it, and you try to make things better. You try to get the behavior to change. But they say, well, I didn't do anything wrong. It was all you. You're the one who's the problem. You did this, you did that. I didn't do anything. I don't like to argue. I don't like to fight. I like peace. And what do you do in that case? Like, you respect yourself, but they turn the tables around and make you look like you're the bad guy. And then you just don't know. You hit your head and you go, oh, I can't get through this. I can't. So what do you do?
What you're offering is a very complex issue. And in a few minutes, it would be very easy to be incredibly simplistic about this, which wouldn't be very helpful. So taking that on board, the first thing I would say is that you can't change other people. No. The only thing you can do is to change the way in which you are interacting with that person.
Yes. Yes.
So the first thing to do is to look at the interactions you have with that person. And if we always do what we've always done, then we'll get the response that we've always got.
Yes, yes.
So if you're trying to make them see how they are and they're not prepared to do that, then you have to look for another way. And I think one of the problems is that 95% of what we think is habitual.
Mm-hmm.
And what often happens in relationships is a habitual pattern of the way in which we language things, or the way in our body language, or the way in which the words that we use and how we use them is habitual, which then triggers the other person into their habitual stuff,
Yes.
which triggers the first person into their habitual stuff. And it becomes this dance, and it often leads to an argument. And when you try to find out what you're arguing about, you can't actually identify it. So the first thing is you start with yourself. Number one is look at the pattern of behavior and the pattern of language that you've been using. And if you've got into this dance where you're, I'm right, you're wrong, no, I'm right, you're wrong, then you need to try a different tack.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The second thing is that we often use our language has an edge to it, our voice has an edge to it. And so the other person is able to wriggle and not take responsibility because of the tone of voice that we're using. So learning to use neutral body language and a neutral tone can be really, really helpful. But if you are with somebody who truly is not ready to take responsibility for anything they say or do, and they are treating you badly, you have to ask yourself the question, why do you stay?
Exactly. Why don't you walk away? Exactly. I'm a life coach, and I have been for the last 30 years also. But
Yes.
I don't really talk about it too much, but I do have, and I have counseled a lot of young ladies and some young boys, men.
Yes.
And I came originally from an abusive relationship from the beginning of 5 years old all the way through adulthood. I've been through all the abuses under the sun. And I learned earlier in my life that I was bringing that childhood pattern into my relationships, looking for my father's love that I'd never received. Yeah. And therefore, I attracted the men just like my dad, and they became my dad. They abused me like he did. I mean, and, you finally wake up and you go, oh, my God, when does this end? And then you realize what you've been doing, and you have to change the behavior. You have to change the pattern so you don't attract the wrong men and create the same pattern.
It's a very common thing to happen, is that we repeat the patterns of behavior over and over again.
Yes.
But the starting point, I believe, is that you recognize that you don't deserve it.
Yes.
And that you wanted something different, and that it was possible to get something different.
That's right.
Then you took action.
That's right. And you have to love yourself.
Absolutely.
You have to love yourself. You can't love anybody anyway unless you love yourself. And you can't love yourself unless you love God. So I learned how to love people from God, because what I've been through in my life, I absolutely should hate everybody, including myself. But love was put into my heart because I prayed to God and I asked for help. And that made a big difference in my life, and that's why I'm alive today. So,
I'm sure it does. But what I would say to you is that I work with many abused people.
Yes.
And love and forgiveness.
Yes, forgiveness is the key.
Because I think it's important to say forgiveness is not about condoning.
Right.
And it's not about forgetting.
Right.
But it's about giving yourself the gift of freedom from the past.
That's right. And you have to forgive. You don't have to forgive, and you don't have to go to their faces and their person and say it. You just forgive it between you and God. That's it.
Yeah, you forgive it in your heart.
That's right.
And you cut the ties, the chains that keep yanking you back to the past.
Absolutely. I love it. Yes. So tell me, what? Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't forgive, it's like giving yourself the poison and expecting the other person to die.
Exactly. And they don't care. They don't even think about it.
No.
So you can torment yourself to death and nobody cares.
That's very true. And I would say to anybody out there, if you're in that situation, get some help.
Yes, yes. Well, let's talk about what was your motivation behind writing this book, your Thriving, Not Surviving book, The 5 Secret Pathways.
I have a very strong sense of purpose. And I was the principal of a large school for over 20 years. And whilst I was a principal, my sense of purpose was well satisfied. I left headship in UK, we call it headship, but stopped being a principal in 2004. I'd had a serious ski accident and I ran my school mostly from a wheelchair. And the gift of that was that I had to develop a different way of enabling and empowering people and developing leadership. It was incredibly successful, and the school was on the 100 best schools in the country list twice while I was ahead.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I'm very proud of that.
And I'm sorry about your accident, but congratulations.
Thank you. I've learned to walk twice as an adult, both times following spinal surgery and having had an internal spinal stimulator fitted. And I still use a wheelchair now if I go into town, but I don't need it around the house and garden, which is lovely. But when I left headship, I started working with individuals and with companies doing business strategic development and leadership and working. I've always worked as a life coach, even when I was a principal. But I got this growing sense that there was a purpose that I was not fulfilling. And I became more and more aware that the quality of leadership at pretty well every level in so many places was pretty toxic. And as a result, the leaders and managers were struggling, they were stressed, and so were their teams. And it doesn't have to be that way. And the whole of the approach that I developed in my school, I found that it worked just as well in small businesses, in corporates, and it made a profound difference. Not only were people happier, that they worked together better, they were more productive, the businesses became much more profitable, but everybody had a much better work-life balance. And so over time, this sense that I had to reach more people, I had to make a profound difference by getting to more people. And the book was the first stage. And the spiritual and personal development program and the leadership program came out of the book. But the book, if you like, is the hook that the other things hang on.
Wow, that's cool. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back, Gina, so don't go away.
You. No, I won't.
Check out the all-new Nadia Sahara Show. It's today's hottest new talk show and rated 5 stars on iTunes, featuring amazing guests and inspiring stories of today. All genres, all dreams, no limits. Visit thenadiasaharishow.com and get the app for Apple and Android. Easy streaming and listening. Have a business? Why not become a sponsor of the show and take your brand to the next level? Email us at...
Okay, we're back with Gina Gardiner, author, relationship coach. So, wow, you were in a wheelchair and look what you've achieved. I mean, I'm telling you, I am so impressed with women and what we do, how strong we are. No matter what happens in our lives, we seem to be able to overcome. We seem to be able to meet the challenges, and we become successful. We are incredible. We are incredible. I love listening to successful women, and I love it when I hear that they had obstacles in their lives and they overcame and they became thrivers instead of survivors.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that necessity is the mother of invention. Yes. And I think particularly for women, they are by nature great problem solvers.
Yes.
You know, they have to find a way through what life brings them. I think men do it too, but I think often women are multitasking. They're looking after the family, they're running a business, or they're working in their business.
Yes.
They're trying to sort everybody else out. And
Yes.
so they become very good at managing difficult situations.
Yes, men are not multitaskers. Absolutely. They can only focus on one thing at a time. But we can do so much. Sometimes I find myself doing 7 to 10 things at one time.
Yes.
And
I think there are men who can multitask, but I think they're few and far between.
Very few. Yes.
But women are used to having a baby on the hip and stirring the soup and thinking about the presentation that they're going to give tomorrow, and
That's
everything.
right. Yes, that's right. So how did you find the strength to overcome all your obstacles and your accidents, and how did you do that?
I think for me it's about focusing on what you can do rather than what you can't. So let me give you a small example.
Sure.
After I came out of hospital, I went after both back operations, and I was in hospital 8 weeks the first time and 6 weeks the second. I was back at school within a very few days, and the second time I was back in school 4 days after the operation. 5 months later, the surgeon said, "I think we'll talk about you going back a couple of hours a week," and I just laughed. Because I'd been back at school part-time for 3 weeks and then full-time thereafter. But the reality was that if I was at home and nobody had filled the kettle or put a cup where I could reach it, I couldn't make myself a drink. I could read and I could watch daytime television. That was it. Or I could go into school, my mouth, my brain, my hands worked. I could run my school effectively. There were people there who could do the physical things that I couldn't do. I could do something that I felt was very worthwhile, that I was good at, and that made a positive difference. Mm-hmm. What would you choose? To be at home feeling disabled and unable to contribute, where all I would have to distract me was daytime television, and I have to tell you, it doesn't do it for me. Or I could do something worthwhile that I loved and that I was good at. Yes. For me, it was a no-brainer.
Yes. I love it. Yes, perfect. Well, who do you feel in your life was your biggest influence to being the person that you are today?
I think my parents, both of them in different ways. My father was a very inspirational teacher, and from his view of life, well, both my parents really was, if life is tough, look to do something for somebody else. Mm-hmm. If you're unhappy, go and make a difference. Go and do something that's positive. My mum, very similar, but my mum would also be, get yourself out in the garden, go and be in nature. Both parents loved nature, but they were both very hard-working people whose view was that if you are unhappy or if you're finding things difficult, look for the silver lining, look for the gift, and go and do something to help somebody else. And in doing that, you will feel better about yourself. And I found that that's been a really helpful way of being.
I agree with that. That is something I've been telling people and that I do myself, because there's no reward greater than helping someone else in need and knowing that you did something good for someone, and it gets you out of yourself, out of your problem, out of whatever you're going through, and you forget what you're going through because what they're going through may be worse than what you're going through.
Yes. The one thing, the caveat I would put on that is self-care. Yes. And at times I've not been so great at that. Yes. Because for me, work has been very good pain control. And so I became a workaholic, and it's something that I have to even now be mindful of. And there were times when I think in my wish to distract myself, because there have been dark times, but in my wish to distract myself, I probably pushed my physical self too hard.
Yes. Yes.
So you've got to get the balance.
Yes. Balance. Absolutely. Everything in our life has to be balanced. It makes a big difference. Absolutely. Well, what would you say to people who are facing challenges in their lives and are trying to do something purposeful, but they're overwhelmed and they just don't know how to overcome that feeling, but they want to find that purpose? They're overwhelmed in finding that purpose because there's so much challenge in it.
I think there are a number of things. Number one, we've already said focus on what you can do rather than what you can't.
Yes.
I think in terms of overwhelm, people underestimate what they can do in a long period, but hugely overestimate what they can do in a short period. So they go for the grand gesture, something that is really, really difficult, but they can't sustain it, so it becomes overwhelming.
Yes.
So I would say you can't eat a cow in one sitting, or a field of corn in one sitting if you're a vegetarian. But mouthful by mouthful, they can be very pleasant. And I think if you're feeling overwhelmed, break it down into small, bite-sized chunks so you can achieve them. And if that means that, that's a 10-minute block of something, we'll do a 10-minute block of something, and then another 10 minutes, and another 10 minutes. And before you know where you are, you've built it up to an hour or 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's not the grand gesture that gives you success. It's the small actions sustained over time which brings the greatest success, because
Wonderful.
We sustain it then.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Good answer. I like you. You're brilliant. I love what you're saying. And it's so true. So true. So what would you say? I know you have valuable advice to give to the listeners that might have a dream such as yours to pursue relationship coaching, being an author. What advice would you give them?
Be clear upon your why. Because if you've got a very strong sense of why you're doing it, what's the purpose for you behind it, then when life gets challenging, and make no mistake, it gets challenging. You write the book and you think that that's the easy bit, that's the hard bit, but it's not. It's actually the easy bit. It's all the stuff that comes afterwards. It's like, you've got to have faith that what you're doing has a purpose and a why. And if that's strong enough, that will see you through those difficult times when things aren't working. And you're like my leadership program, which is the culmination of over 30 years' work. It was launched a couple of weeks ago. And now I've got to get participants and find people who want to be affiliates. And at the moment, it would be very easy for that to feel overwhelming. But because I am so passionate about changing the quality of leadership, of helping people change not only their working lives, but helping lead their families and their communities, that drives me, even on those days when things are disappointing or I don't feel great or it just feels overwhelming. So know your why. And when you do, that makes life so much easier. And if you don't know your why, be curious, try things out, and you'll get that sense of lightness if it's right for you. If something makes you feel heavy and unhappy, then the chances are that that's not your purpose. Because when you are living your purpose, it doesn't feel like work. It feels great.
It's true. It's true. It's true. And you just can't stop. You just keep going and going and going because you have that passion and There's just no stopping. I learned that when I was writing my book. I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this, you know? So I started writing, typing actually, typing. And I just kept typing and the brain just kept bringing all this stuff up. And I mean, I didn't have to search for anything. It was all coming through. It was great. I shocked myself.
And I think that's for you, that's the proof, isn't it, when you are absolutely in line with your purpose.
Yes.
I think one of the reasons why so many people are unhappy is that they are living a life which feels as if it has little purpose.
Yes.
But even if you're not living your ultimate purpose, I think the other thing I would say to people is live your life with purpose.
Yes.
So if you're doing the washing up, then do it and make it. Be determined to make the most of the job and be in the moment and live the experience. You know, and when I was the principal, you know, the team was so successful because my site manager and my cleaners were proud to make the school shiny and clean, and the groundsmen wanted the grounds to be the best they could be, and the teachers wanted to be the best they could be. It didn't matter where you were in the machinery, if you like, that you knew that you were going to be the best professional in that role. Even if, you know, as a cleaner, that wasn't the role that they ultimately wanted to do.
Yes.
That for the time that they were doing that, they did it with huge purpose and heart. And I think that's really important.
It is. I love what you're saying, and it's so true and so perfect. I have been to England, and I'll tell you, I went to see Cambridge.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful, and it's so big, so huge. I couldn't believe it. It's just beautiful, and it's a few hundred years old, a couple hundred. I don't know, but it's old, and it looks.
There are parts of it that are 500 and 600, 700 years old.
That's right.
Yes.
That's what I thought. And it was so beautiful, and the lawn and the landscaping. And I thought about it, and I thought, oh my God, this is where T.S. Eliot went, and Virginia, Leonard Woolf, and so many authors came from there. And I thought, oh God, this is beautiful. I wanted to go inside so badly.
Oh. It is very beautiful. The colleges and the backs onto the River Cam, just fabulous.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I went to Carnaby Street too, and I went to a lot of places. I went pretty much to most of Europe. It was beautiful. And
well, I live just outside Colchester, which is the oldest town in England.
Oh.
And the Romans settled here. And you may have heard of Queen Boudica or Boadicea. She came from just around the corner to me.
Oh.
She fought the Romans. But we have Iron Age settlements here.
Wow.
Go right the way back to the Iron Age and the Bronze Age. So lots of old stuff, yes.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. A lot of history in Europe.
Yes, there certainly is.
Yes, and I mean, and the buildings, I mean, they're still there. I mean, they've been there for hundreds of years, and I mean, they built them so well. It's incredible.
Yes, they certainly did. Well, we've got a Norman castle, so that was built in I think the 12th century.
Yes.
That's in the middle of Colchester.
Yes. Oh, God. I want to come out again and take pictures now that we have digital.
Yes.
So where can our listeners connect with you and in social media and purchase your books?
The books are on all the normal places, Amazon and so on.
Yes.
But if you go to, I've got two websites. The first website is genuinely, and then hyphen, and then the word you.com. And you will find lots of free resources there and all of the programs to purchase. And then if you go to just to enlightenedleadership.co, then they'll find all about the leadership program. They can find me at the Genuinely You Facebook group and join the group there. I'm on LinkedIn under Gina Gardiner or Gina Gardiner Associates. So lots of different places that you can find me. And please do come and connect.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. And you do relationship coaching. So how would they reach you for that?
Through the website, the genuinely-u.com, and there are coaching programs there for people who want to work on the relationship with themselves and with others. And I do have a package where I work one-on-one with people in terms of their relationships if they're interested.
That's great, because nowadays you can do this anywhere in the world, because you can use Skype, you can use Zoom, you can use the telephone. I mean, there's all ways of communicating today that there's no excuse not to get help.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're in such an exciting time, don't we?
It is. There's good and bad about the internet, but there's a lot of good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Gina. You are inspiring, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're amazing. I love what you said, and I love what you're doing, and I thank you so much for being on my show. I really, really enjoyed it, and I know my listeners are going to love it, and it's going to really help a lot of people that might have the same dream that you have and you've achieved.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure too.
Thank you. I want to thank my guest, Gina Gardiner. She's got a nice website. She's got books. They're on Amazon. Be sure to pick her book up. It's great. So thank you, and thank you for sharing, and be sure to download my app, Nadia Sahari. Just go to the Apple Store, search Nadia Sahari, and you will see my app. Download it, Apple and Android. And my website is thenadiasaharishow.com. But for easy access of listening and getting information, the app is the easiest way to do it. Thank you, and God bless you all. And ask yourself, are you living your dream?
Thanks for tuning in with Nadia and her guests. For more info, episodes, and connection, please visit our website, thenadiasaharishow.com. Share episodes with your friends. Follow us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Instagram, and most importantly, never give up. Live your dream.
Latin Connection magazine is a family magazine featuring people of influence, cultural events, and traditions, recipes and photos of Latin food, Hispanics in business. Plus, get news on Latin festivals, Latin entertainment, and Latinos in the fashion industry, and see photos of Latinos in action all over the U.S. Conoce tu vecino y mucho más. We invite you to share your special event with us at LatinConnectionMag.com. Latin Connection Magazine. Conexión Latina y mucho más. Latin Connection Magazine. It's for anyone and everyone to enjoy, no matter who you are.